Melvin J. Dahlberg, F Company, PFC.
Great. You're pretty good friends with Merle, right?
Merle Traber. We
Yeah.
were scouts.
Yeah. How'd
Together.
you guys get to know each other? What does a scout do?
A scout kind of feels out the enemy position and report back to commanders, whoever.
Okay, let me.
You know my serial number, did you?
No, we don't
I
need
didn't.
it.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
Okay, let's roll on.
All right, so I understand what a scout is now. Let's go right to the Battle of the Bulge, which was probably, one of your toughest experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Take me back in time to that day. That
Well,
you got wounded.
the day of my wound was January 3rd, 1945. That morning, we were preparing to gear up for something I knew was pretty big because I had seen General Gavin a few yards up in front of us talking with our officers. So seeing him, I knew that we were in for a battle of some kind. And so we took off approximately 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were to take Trois Ponts, three bridges. And we had to cross open field, and it looked like a cemetery because there were graves that were dug, and unbeknownst to us, they were zeroed in with enemy mortar. And when they really started to fire upon us, the ones behind us, they were jumping into these graves, and I know there were a lot of casualties for that alone. I know that there were many dead and about 91 injured that day. But for me, being a scout, I was out there with the head of the group of my company, and they started shelling us pretty bad. And I got behind a berm, and it wasn't long before to this day, I don't know if it was a German 88 or a big mortar that fell right near me, and it killed company commander John Listener, not John Lister, but John Castleman, and it wounded 2 other guys, and I never got a scratch. It was a concussion, and this was January 3rd, as I said, and it was about the first week in February that I woke up from a coma that I was in, and I don't know how I got there, but I was in a number of hospitals before I got left out, and I never got back to my outfit because they said I would have limited duty, so they put me in the Air Force, 8th Air Force.
What about Captain Juki?
What
do you know about him? What do you remember
Well,
about him?
I was never under. He was a third platoon. I was first platoon, so I really wasn't working under him or with him at any time in a battle.
Okay.
So.
What's your next, after that, what's your probably most vivid memory?
Well, my first wound was in Italy, and I was leading the platoon in the middle of the night through, I think, a town called Grosseto in Italy. And as I said, it was a kind of a hilly area, and all of a sudden during the night, I heard this word. It meant Dumkopf. I didn't know what that meant, but anyway, I ducked down, and he had the German had thrown a hand grenade, and it got my finger, almost cut my finger off. So I hollered back to the platoon to, let's retreat until we find out what more enemy we're encountering. So the next morning I got back to my outfit. The next morning we saw them running off in the distance, the Germans. But there were a number of incidents that I can recall that kept me from getting killed, so to speak. We were fighting for Hill 1098. in southern France. And this was, took about 2 weeks to gain control of this hill. We were mortaring them on one side, and they were coming back with mortars from their side. And one mortar came within maybe 4 or 5 feet of me, and it didn't go off. It just covered me with dirt. That's something to be thankful for. I thank that German worker for saving my life, or whatever, who put that thing together. And another incident I'd like to recall with Traver, Merle Traver.
Yes.
He was a scout with another, well, we were both in F Company 1st Platoon. Squad, I'm thinking of squad. And we had been on patrols together, now and then going into, from 1098 into Sospel, which is a city on the other side of the valley from Hill 1098. So we got orders, both Merle and me, to lead E Company and parts of D Company down into the valley and up into Sospel, since we were quite familiar with that trail. So we did that, and that was during the night. And that morning, I should say that we were billeted in that command quarters, the German command quarters, that night with the company of E and some of D. And I remember going through with the lieutenant who was in charge of E Company, that we looked for that buildings, looked for a booby trap in the whole building, and we never found any. So we stayed with them, Merle and me, on the second floor of this German command building. It was a chalet, it was plush furniture and grand piano in it and all that. So we stayed with them that night, and then we left in the morning to meet the rest of our F Company coming into Sospel from another area. Well, we got about a block away, and we heard this explosion behind us. And here that building, that chalet, went up in a cloud of smoke. And we couldn't figure out what happened, but I will never forget. We got there, and guys were screaming, and had fallen in with all that debris, and it was just chaos. And I think there were about 4 that were killed in that. And here again, we could have been killed right there. I'm telling you, it was devastating
They
to see
planted
that.
a time bomb in there.
Apparently,
They said
yes.
that
And
they set off. They set before they left. Then it went off about 2 or 3 days later.
well, I wouldn't know how long before, but it was about 7:30 in the morning. It blew up, and Fred. I think his name is Fred Polk from D Company. The grand piano had fallen on top of him, and he was in bad shape, and he wanted, well, I shouldn't even say it, but he was in such pain he wanted to have a rifle thrown down him so he could kill himself. I'll never forget that. And of course we didn't, and he lost his leg, but he became very active in our association
What
in
did he say?
future years.
He said, "Shoot me."
He said, "I want to kill myself." It was, he was in such pain. And nobody's going to throw a rifle down to him. So, but I wasn't around I had to get back to my outfit, and I know that the medics eventually saved him, and he did lose a leg. But there were 4 others that lost their lives in there, and a number of wounded. But I'll never forget that. That was terrible.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Is
Thank you.
that enough?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're doing like 10 minutes.
Wait, think of something else?
Well, I told you about my 2 wounds. No, that's enough.
Where were we?
What are you
You're
gonna
not
What are you gonna throw at me?
We're not done with you yet. What were some of the other ones that were more painful?
Well, I hate to mention names because it's very personal,
It's all right.
and I don't know if that would be good. Well, I'll tell you, and you can decide whether to throw it in or not. But we captured a German in southern France, and myself and 2 others, I'm not going to mention their names, were interviewing this, trying to get some information out of this German, and he couldn't understand us, and we couldn't understand him, obviously. And this one guy, he put a gun to his head and shot him, and that blew my mind too, how he could do that. And I've thought of that so many times. I've had nightmares thinking about that.
What did he look like, the German soldier?
Just a young man, yeah. He wasn't a lieutenant, officer. He was just a enlisted person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a lot like you.
Yeah, we were both all young, yeah, but it's something I'll never forget. Yeah, take a life like that. It was senseless. Yeah.
I'm glad you shared that with us.
Well,
That's the
I
reality.
had questions about that, but I'm not naming any names on purpose, because I
That's
don't
fine.
want
We don't need that.
to. Yeah.
What other, was there another incident along those lines that sort of haunts you or that you think about?
No, I can't think of any offhand. Not really. Yeah. Yeah. But some of those things you just never
You
forget.
said after the war, you know, it's been hard for you to work with this, and then you got some help, and then that's helped you, like recently. You said
Oh, well, you mean
after
that?
Band of Brothers.
Yes, after the Band of Brothers, I saw that it all came back to me. Some of these incidents of what I fought in, and I used to relate my experiences to the kids in the high school and the grade schools around my community, and but I couldn't do it anymore after watching Band of Brothers. And I went to the VA, and through a series of doctors and psychiatrists, they said I got PTSD. So, and I know when I first got out of the service, I knew there was something not right within me, and they said, well, it's all in your head, which was at that time, I think they referred to as shell shock. But now today they call it PTSD. And so, in fact, they classified me 100% disabled back in 2003. So I know what those guys are coming back are, how they're feeling from Iraq and Afghanistan. As I understand, I know for a fact that we're treating a lot of those out the Twin City Veterans Hospital. You have a big ward just for treating these PTSD veterans. So I know how that is.
Well, it took a lot of courage to say what you said, and thank you.
Mm.
And